Experience the world of King Arthur as never before. As a Knight of the Round Table, TMTMRRCCCTMR, you will meet legendary figures, encounter fabled creatures, battle mighty enemies, take on challenging quests, and discover wondrous places of power as you pursue your destiny in this vastly replayable game. Your choices make the story your very own. Each decision contributes to the unique story you weave. And story twice in 2 sentences is a little rough. Will you pursue a path of chivalric romance? Hold yourself to the divine ideals, or become a sinister villain? Will you become esteemed or accursed? Beloved or scorned? Today, on the Board Boys of the Rectangular Table,
Tales of the Arthurian Knights.
Huzzah!
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Board Boys Podcast, Season 16, Episode 10. Tonight on the docket, Tales of the Arthurian Knights by WizKids. This is your board boy, you've got no arms left, Rob.
This is your boy, Tim the Enchanter.
And this is your boy, Boinker McDoinker, a.k.a. the Accursed.
The Accursed, yeah,
Kept getting
okay,
bad stuff out of me. The cunning giant.
Scorned.
A.k.a. Cam. Yeah.
The Scorned Dragon.
Yeah, no treasure Cam.
Some may call me Tim.
Tim?
Yeah. Did you know that Tim was a term for magic cards for a long time?
I mean...
From Tim the Wizard.
Oh, really? I just assumed it was from me.
Well, when you Tim someone, that's when you tap it to do, like, 1 damage. And the original card that did that was called the Prodigal Wizard, I think.
Okay.
And the ability on the card was tap it, do 1 damage.
Yeah,
so
okay.
they always called that the Tim.
I mean, I also just take itty bits of your soul all the time, one little piece at a time. So that makes sense.
That's what we call timming it.
Yeah, it fits pretty nicely.
Timming it.
Slowly crack away at your soul.
Good style. Well, it's award season here in the board game world. Do you guys want to talk a little Spiel de Jahres?
Yeah, we're just getting right into it today. That's
Yeah,
actually
man.
good because...
Yeah, let's rip it. So the Spiel des Jahres, if you don't know what that is, it's the German game of the year. It can only be games that came out in Germany this year. That's why sometimes you see games that maybe you've seen in America the previous couple of years, and then all of a sudden they printed it there exactly. Anyway, it's a huge boon to whoever wins the award. It sells lots and lots of copies. This year, the nominees for the normal Spiel des Jahres award are Bombbusters, Flip 7, and Crackle Oracle, which that one I have no idea what that is. Looks like it's drawing lines.
I love drawing lines.
Yeah, the art of drawing the right lines for 2 to 8 players.
That sounds really fun.
Now, I mean, probably. Flip 7, we know all about that. It is the world's most popular card game, according to their marketing. And then Bombbusters is pretty awesome. I mean, I think either one of those probably could take it down. Bombbusters feels more like a Spiel winner to me.
Yeah.
But I could see Flip 7 probably taking it. Also, I'm in the craziest game of Flip 7 on BGA right now. I wish you could tell it on BGA to just never stop hitting.
Yeah.
I went out on 2 2s. That's insane,
Nice.
I just don't. I mean, I like Flip 7 a lot. I just don't think it has the juice. It shouldn't. I don't know. I mean, I think it says a lot about the game that it's even in consideration for the award. But
Yeah.
I've not played Bombbusters. It looks super fun, though.
Oh, man, Bombbusters is so fun. We'll have to play that sometime.
Yeah.
Bo really likes it. It's got like 60-some different missions. We've only opened up 1 box, so I'm just curious to see what else is in there. The recommendations, One is called Agent Avenue. Don't know what that is. Castle Combo, which you guys played that on Tuesday.
Yep, I played it a bunch.
And it's similar to that Euro game I played.
Yeah.
As far as like, 'cause
Not
you're building a
Euro.
grid.
Euro.
Euro?
Euro. Yeah. Not a Euro game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
YRO.
Yeah.
Which one do you like better?
I think Castle Combo is just a little more chill.
Okay.
You know, like all you're doing is really.
I played that on BGA. I didn't really know what I was doing.
Okay, so on your turn, you basically pick a card from a row. You can spend a key to, like, there's a little guy that's either on the top row or the bottom row. You pick the card, and then it usually gives you something, and then it has a scoring criteria. So kind of like Euro, there's no fighting, there's no competition for that kind of thing. The only competition is getting the cards. So it's very, like, relaxed to, pull cards and stuff. But I really liked it.
The next one on the list is Cities by Phil Walker Harding. That game rips.
Yeah, I also really like the game.
Does rip.
I'm surprised. That feels like a game that should be on BGA. I also think that's a game that probably could deserve to just win this award, to be honest.
I would agree.
I mean, that's kind of what it feels like to me. It looks like there's a game called Foxy. It's a memory and observation game, is what it's saying here on BGG. Perfect Words, and then The Annals of Baker Street. So all those I've never heard of.
Perfect Words is on BGA. So is Castle Combo. They're both awesome.
Okay.
Just so you know.
The Kinderspiel, I don't know anything about any of these. One's Cascadia Jr. I just imagine that one will probably win.
Yeah, I mean, I have not played Cascadia Jr.,
Yeah.
but it looks a lot like just the family version with even one less rule.
Yeah, instead of all the individual scoring cards.
Yeah, well, and you're moving tokens a little different. So
there's one called Die Massabande. I'm not good with German. And then Top die Torte by Wolfgang Warsch. Man, maybe I need to check that one out. This looks like some kind of game about building a giant cake.
Do you think a top means tip, like tip the cake?
Maybe. Multi-layered baking for 2 to 4
or maybe just
children.
top the cake.
Yeah. The Kennerspiel is the kind of meteor game. And the ones there are Endeavor, Deep Sea, Far Away, and Loot.
Loot rule, so does Far Away.
Endeavor Deep Sea is going to win that one.
Endeavor Deep Sea is fantastic.
It's so good.
I like Far Away, too. I've not played Loot.
I played Loot on BGA. It's tight. I'm surprised Loot is in the Kenner Spiel. Like, Loot's pretty light.
So is Far Away.
Yeah.
Endeavor Deep Sea seems like it's a little out of place with those three, but isn't that like the more complicated?
Yeah, it's supposed to be the more complicated one.
So
like the other two feel like they could almost be
place.
like a heavier Spiel type game.
Yeah.
But
I don't think Far Away is that. I mean, neither of them are that heavy.
Far Away is very easy. In Far Away, you play a card, then pick a card.
Yeah.
That's like the whole game.
Yeah, the only thing weird about it is you score backwards.
Yeah,
or whatever,
but like once you've played Far Away once, like you have to be dense not to understand it after you've played it one time.
Yeah.
yeah, I think you always got to just go back to thinking of what the Spiel's kind of a weird category. Like games like Ticket to Ride and what's the King Domino? Like that is the level of the Spiel, right?
I would say Far Away and Loot are probably both in that level.
I mean, I feel like they're pretty close.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's the Spiel stuff.
Maybe a bunch of like 7-year-olds are on the board now.
I would love to
Spiel
get
Jahres.
my hands on a copy of Endeavor so we can do
It's really good.
an episode of it. I mean, I played it. I would like to play it some more because there's so much variability in that game.
Are you waiting for? I think the
deluxe should be coming back around. It's just got some more stuff. No, and like the deluxe part of it, I don't know that I even care that much about. But like, there's like the mini expansions, and it goes to 5 players, and a couple other things.
Yeah, I mean,
Just
I would
more,
like to see that.
Just
win.
more boards.
I think that deserves to win. That's a re-implementation of Endeavor.
I never
Something
played the
else?
original
Okay.
game. I've heard they made that game, Endeavor Age of Sail, and they made it way less clunky, basically.
Perfect.
Plus, like any game where you can go diving in the ocean, I'm down.
Yeah, dude.
Crazily diving in the ocean.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's wild. So
All right, let's talk about some games we've been playing. I have a couple. One I want to talk about is Scooby-Doo, the board game. And it is by Simon. And the designers are Guillermo Goulart and Fred Parrott. And the artist is Hannah Cardoso. So Scooby-Doo, the board game, is a cooperative game. And you're going up against 3 different, like, villains. Or monsters, if you will, / people in monster costumes, because it's Scooby-Doo, right?
Come on, Scoob. Is that a good Shaggy? Okay.
Yeah. But basically, you just go around the board, and it's basically a set collection game. Like, you're trying to collect the things and then go turn them in before you lose the game. And when I read the rules, I'm like, this game is going to be so easy. Like, we're never going to lose this. And we lost it so hard because you're constantly having to draw cards, and your cards are basically your life, and the monsters can also eat more of your cards. I was thinking, let's go do this and turn in all of our go collect the stuff, the tokens for the objectives, and then go score the objectives and win. And then, when the deck runs kind of low, we'll go refill it, because there's a mechanism where you can go and take actions to, like, put cards back in the deck. Well, that's all great, except for we waited way too long to manage the deck, and we lost.
Ay, ay, ay.
So I was expecting this to be kind of a light, pretty. I mean, it's very rules light, but man, there's some definite thought that has to go into winning this game. We haven't won yet, and it's cool. You can, like, teach it, and if you like Scooby-Doo, it's easy to learn, and it's a fun family co-op game.
Do you think it's too hard?
I mean, I don't know. We only played it once.
Oh, okay.
So now that I know what's up with it, I'm interested to try it again. The next one I want to talk about is called Bloomchasers, a delightful 3D tree game of flowers and wit. And I backed this just because it looks cool. I just got the Kickstarter. It's a plastic tree, and it plays with the expansion. I think it plays up to 6 players, which to me seems absolutely insane. I've only played it with 2, but everyone has their own colored flowers. And on your turn, you draw a tree branch out of the bag and add it to the tree. And then you take one of the face-up cards, and the face-up cards let you add a flower bud somewhere on the tree based on the type of card it is. So there's like wind, air, and water cards, I believe. And one is add it to the branch you just put on. One is add it to a bud, one of your existing buds. And one is put it next to an opponent's bud. And each one of those cards is associated with a flower type. And the more of those flower types you have on there, you get to put an extra bud on the tree. So, like, if I have 2 of the water ones already on there, I could put 3 total buds on there. And then as soon as someone draws a bloom card, in turn order, you go around and you bloom your buds if you can bloom any based on the pattern. And there's like 3 different patterns of flowers.
This is a centralized tree?
Yes.
Okay.
Everyone's built on the same thing. So this game can be kind of mean. And you can also, when you're blooming, everything takes 3. You can use one bud of someone else's as long as you're using 2 of yours too. So you can steal someone else's bud when that happens. On top of that, there's 2 expansions that we've played with. One is a bird expansion, which adds new cards in, and basically there's a bird of each kind: water, air, and wind. And it basically lets you put 1 bud out and then place a bird, and the bird literally just blocks something, which is just straight out mean. And the other one's a bees expansion, where you can put these little honeycomb branches on, and your flowers score twice as much if they touch those. The cool part about it is you randomly seed the deck with a number of each of the cards, and you don't know how many of each of the cards there are. And so at the end of the game, you count up how much of each card there is. So let's say there's only 2 total wind cards in the deck. The wind flower is going to be worth the most points because it was like the hardest to bloom. Yeah, and that's kind of it. It plays in like half an hour, and it totally destroys my brain because it's 3D. It's a 3D spatial puzzle.
Sometimes you just gotta get your brain destroyed, though.
Man, it's wild. It is like the weight is like around a 1 on BGG, and I think it's because the rules, but the strategy is definitely not a 1.
So is this a little bit of the same feeling you had from Monkey Palace or whatever, the Lego game?
Yeah, I mean,
Three-dimensional spatial puzzle
I can
with scoring.
I think I can wrap my head around this one better than
Okay.
Monkey Palace. Although there's one type of flower that's weird because you need to have 2 buds on the top and then 1 bud below it because there's like one stem that hangs down lower than the other one. And so remembering how that one fits in there is kind of wild.
Crazy.
It's hard to explain. I have pictures of it on our Instagram, but Bloomchasers, if you like spatial games, you're going to love it.
It looks
Cam would
great.
die about this game, I think. I think he would love it.
I probably would. I wish I got to still play games. I do play games. You know what I want to buy out? So, I did play a few games this last weekend, and I cracked out my copy of Meeple Circus, which is sadly unexpansioned and ungiant. And I see that you can still get the giant expansioned version of that game for $200, and that honestly doesn't seem too bad for what you get. And like, why not play that game giant if you're gonna play? Because like, Meeple Circus is great. We have talked about Meeple Circus on this podcast, I'm sure, but I would guess it was like 7 years ago.
Yeah, I think the giant version makes the game easier.
Like too easy.
I would say.
Maybe
Still fun though.
Maybe I should just go out and buy the expansions of the small ones. I did have I had an opportunity to win. So Meeple Circus is a game where you draft little meeples and various meeple style other elements to make a little circus over 3 rounds. And the game gets like progressively wackier, and there's like all sorts of little rules about how you stack your meeples. And if you're smart, you can get a bunch of points by doing like wild combinations. And by the final round, the game can really swing because like by the final round of the game, you have so much stuff and so many ways to score points that you like invariably try to do something like difficult, and it's either like glory or like complete failure. And I was like balancing one little meeple like 1.5 feet off the ground away from winning the game by like 15 points. And I made a Michael J. Fox quip and was punished severely by my whole stack toppling with like 10 seconds left to go.
Did you have to make jokes? Was that your last?
No, I was just like, I kind of feel like Michael J. Fox here because my hands were shaking because I was like trying to wrest this acrobat dude down on the. But if any of you guys like dexterity games, this one is one of the best ones ever made. Would you agree, Rob?
Yeah, and it has good strategy to it as well, and it has a cool app with a soundtrack, and I love the metal track on that.
So here's the pros: it's extremely easy to learn. 2, even if you're playing with non-gamers, it's fun for them because they get to stack stuff up. Con is non-gamers will never be very good at the game. Or like it'll take them a while to become good at the game because they could build like an incredible circus, but like during the game there's specific combinations of meeples you're trying to build for points, and if they're not paying attention to those,
you got to draft.
They'll be like,
right?
I stacked all my stuff in like a tall stack, and it's like, yeah, but you have to draft the donkey in order to be able to unlock some of the point scoring.
Yeah, but if you're last, don't
you get to pull out a card?
Yeah, switch an objective.
Yeah. I honestly kind of think that I've already made like house rules in the game like about like how you draft stuff. Because in the game, you like the first person drafts, and then it circles back around, and the first person gets to draft again. If you play this game in the first round, I always do a horseshoe draft because then like nobody gets hosed, and then in subsequent rounds, whoever's losing gets the privilege of the nice like you draft first, and then you draft first of the second round as well, to try to help people catch up. But like I think you could house rule.
I always thought that was a snake draft every time. But
No, it's
been a long time
It's
since
not.
I played.
It's a circle draft every time. But I do a circle draft in the second rounds for people to catch up. and I do a snake draft in the first one so that nobody gets got in the first round. But I think you could probably find a nice way to house rule, like, so you see more of the building cards every game, like, so that you have like different objectives every time, and the person in last could then flip one. You like flip over 4 new ones, and that way you see some fresh stuff.
When are they going to start putting dexterity games on BGG or BGA?
Yeah.
I want to play some Meeple Circus on
like
BGA.
your mouse moves and the whole thing falls.
Like a little physics. Yeah. There probably is a Meeple Circus tabletop sim mod.
I'm sure there is. Yeah.
So
That'd be wild.
I mean, Tabletop Simulator is hard to put things onto the table just in general, but
that's its own dexterity game.
Yeah.
So that's Meeple Circus. Like, highly recommend it. I think I want to go buy the expansions. And I was just looking at, I think you can get a copy of the game for like $30 too. So great price. I have gotten a chance to play my Kickstarter of Cretaceous Rails, and I did not play with any of the extra content because I was the only person playing before, but I also got the expansion that has pterodactyls in it. I couldn't remember if I kickstarted the game because I love Alex Wolf, the publisher, the owner of Spielcraft Games and the publisher of this, or if I truly loved the game. And so I had my second play on Saturday or Sunday, and I truly love the game. It's really, really fun. So what you're doing in Cretaceous Rails is there's an action selection grid, so you get 4 actions per round, and then I think there's 4 rounds, so you get 16 turns all game. But what you're doing is there's a grid of actions that you shuffle up every time, and you place on like the line between 2 actions, and so you get to take 2 actions, and like you place a worker there, so like fewer and fewer combinations are available as you continue. And so you have to like kind of prioritize the stuff you want to do. You can always forego an action to unload your train because the whole thing is based off you're running a train line through like the Cretaceous jungle. And like what you do during the game is you build tracks out into the jungle, and then you like chop down the trees. So that's your second action. And the trees get loaded up on your trains. You can capture dinosaurs if there's not a tree on the tile they're at. You can also bring tourists to like go on a viewing. And the game is a balancing act of getting tourists to like look at dinosaurs out in the jungle to increase the value of those types of dinosaurs. But then to score the dinosaurs, you have to capture them, and then you have to use them in building cards. So you get building cards and you're building a hotel, and you have to take an action to go do buildings, and you use like dinosaurs to like create exhibits at your hotel. And so basically you have to like compete with other people on this spatial jungle and pull dinos at the right time because you want to like get tourists to go out and see them first to increase the value of them, so they're excited to get up close and personal with them. And then you have to build them into the cards to actually score their points. And then at the end of the game, all of the cards you build also have an endgame scoring condition, kind of Concordia style. So if you're doing something really well and you build a bunch of cards that score that multiplier a bunch of times, you have another way to get a bunch of points. It can play pretty fast. It's really thinky, and I think there's a lot of paths to victory. However, I could be wrong. I've only played a couple times. Maybe one of the parts of the game is like way more weighty than the other, and we'll find that out. But really, it's a super fun game and a super cool second outing for Spielcraft, who also did For Glory, which is another incredible, really unique game. So good luck to Spielcraft in all their future endeavors.
I remember having fun with that one when we played it before the Kickstarter. I did rate it an 8.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it. I think it's my favorite dinosaur game.
There you go.
There's a lot of dinosaur games.
I mean, it's the most uniquely themed dinosaur game for sure.
It is, but the only dinosaur games I can really think of are Draftosaurus, which I love, Dinosaur Island Rawr and Right, which I like, Dinosaur Island, which I think is okay, Dinogenics, which I think is okay, and Dinosaur World, which I think I'm like kind of in the minority on this one. I think is the best of the dinosaur blank games, Island and Rawr and Right. I think Dinosaur World is way better balanced than the other 2 of those games. But
I did not love Dinosaur Island.
Dinosaur Island is kind of annoying to me. Dinosaur World, I love.
I like Dinogenics. I've not played Dinosaur World.
That is the only one that I still have. So
Dinogenics is?
Mm-hmm.
Did I buy your copy of Dinosaur World?
you did.
Yeah, I did.
So it's still in the family.
But I bought my own copy of Dinosaur Island. And
Yeah, I had like the totally liquid.
totally liquid.
expansion.
I have not played. I played that with you, and it was like better, but I still didn't think it really did the trick. World is tight. I highly recommend you guys all go give World another shot.
How about you, Tim?
Yeah, so I got to play Kinfire Delve.
I played that.
Yeah, it was really fun. It's a co-op game. I think you buy the packs. It's a 2-player game. When you buy the pack.
It's like if you buy one copy of it, it's 2 players, but there's different scenarios or like different games, and you can like slam them together and play higher player counts.
Yeah, so we played 3-player. So basically, I think each pack comes with 2 characters or whatever. So we played two packs characters versus 1 monster. So basically, have this giant deck of monster cards.
And I think every game has 3 different big bads you can fight.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So the giant deck of monster cards, you basically put 4 out per round, and there are these encounters. So every time on your turn, you're basically playing a card that matches a color into one of the kind of areas, the 4 little areas. Those areas have different, maybe like it's a creature, it's an obstacle, it's a puzzle, it's a trap, those kind of things, and your cards can match up and say you do more damage to traps or whatever it is. So you play this card out, then people can play cards from their hand to follow you and help you out, and then you roll dice. And if you succeed, you get the succeed bonus of the card. If you fail, you kind of leave, I guess, like hit points on the card to make it easier the next round, and you have like a penalty for the loss. Most of the time, the succeeds are you basically discard more cards out of the deck, and you're trying to get to the bottom of the deck. And when you get to the bottom of the deck, so I think the end of the well, you then draw the big bad monster out, and that monster has a certain thing that it does. I think you said there's 3 different ones in each thing. We smashed the deck and then got smashed by the boss monster. It was really fun. The decks are unique for each of the player characters. I thought they all had their own unique flavor. When you run out of cards, if you have to restock your cards, you have to take like a fatigue, which then gives you like an ongoing penalty in accordance to what the big bad monster was. I had a lot of fun. Did you played it 2-player or 3-player?
We played a 3-player, and I really liked it. This is like a smaller version. There's like a big box Kinfire Chronicles game.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about that one.
It looks
like more dungeon crawling.
It looks like an actual game.
Yeah. But this one, you can get the delves for like $20-$25.
Yeah.
So like it's a really solid little co-op for that. I really thought about picking one up.
Me too.
Yeah, I really liked it.
So apparently there's 3 delves. Apparently one's really hard to find, but the other 2 aren't very hard to find. And the monster we played was fun. Yeah, I mean, I'd recommend it to anybody. They didn't seem very expensive. And
we played the one from Callus's lab. That's
okay.
the one I played.
Yeah, I think we played the Vainglory Grotto. I think so.
This company also makes Gentle Rain.
Gentle Rain was super fun too.
I know you were mentioning that. It's on their website you can buy it as a pack with Gentle Rain.
I would recommend Gentle Rain to anybody.
A weird combo of things.
Yeah, that was the one we got to play recently. It was really fun.
Nice. I just have one more I want to talk about. It was the demo of the week last week at Dungeons Gate. It's a trivia game called Mind the Gap. And the designers are Chris and Jen Armstrong. Artist is Chris and Jen Armstrong, and it's Solid Roots Publishing. Mind the Gap is a trivia game about different generations, and so there's 4 different decks. The deck boxes are kind of cool because they're like one looks like an iPod and one looks like a cassette tape, and they're all themed. There's Boomer, there's Millennial, there's Gen X, and then there's Gen Z maybe. Those are the 4. And on the things they kind of give you like what they say the age ranges are, and all of the decks have the same categories, but the category icons are different, which is a minor con for me because, and your mover pieces are so big you can't see the spot that your thing moves onto. It's really weird. But when we were playing, Bo was constantly like, Well, he and I both were like, what category is that again? Because like the icon for millennial for movies and TV is different than the Gen Z one because they're using like icons that are appropriate for that time frame. Right.
But they're all like movies.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like one might be like a VHS and one might be a DVD, or one might be just like a streaming box.
But
or
they're all a
something.
movie category.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's confusing because they're all different, and every
Right.
side of the board is a different one, and you start on one of the sides depending on which team you are, and then but you have to go around the entire board. And when you get one right, it's basically a roll and move if you get it right kind of thing. I don't know. It's fun. Like, I feel like this would be a good trivia game if you had a wide range of ages because they recommend, splitting up generations. It's just like when we go to trivia nights, we like to have a wide range of ages when we go to trivia nights because then everyone kind of has their own thing.
Or cam. Or a cam.
Or a cam.
Yeah, you gotta have a cam.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, it's not as good as CDSK, I think, as far as trivia goes. But if you wanted more of to me, this feels like a good replacement for Trivial Pursuit if you wanted to play like a team trivia kind of game, where I think CDSK is more fun like a single player experience instead of teams. But I don't know, it was neat. And they have an expansion that is literally just more cards too. So yeah, and it was like $25 or something for the game. So
Nice.
Besides my minor quibbles, if you're looking for a fun trivia game that kind of spans the generations, there you go. Mind the Gap.
Mind the Gap.
Yeah. All right. Tonight on the podcast, we played Tales of the Arthurian Knights. This is by WizKids. The designers are Eric Goldberg and Andrew Parks. The art is by David Schneider Art, Medusa Dollmaker, and Micro Paganisi. This is a reimplementation of Tales of the Arabian Nights, if you've ever played that old nugget. It currently is ranked 4,409. It is 731 thematic. It is currently ranked 8.1 on Board Game Geek. It came out in 2024. In this game, you gather around King Arthur's table as you embark on the ultimate quest for glory. It is 1 to 4 players, best at 2, ages 12 plus. Playing time is 2 to 3 hours. Weight is 2.3 out of 5. I will just tell you how you play Tales of the Arthurian Knights. Basically, you're going to play either 4, 8, or 12 rounds, depending if you want to play a short, medium, or long game. On your turn, you will pass this giant tome, aka book, to the person to your left, and then you will you might have any status effect cards. The marker on them will move down because eventually you will lose the statuses, and then you can move your character, and then you have an encounter. You get to draw a card from a deck, and depending on which age you're in, it might be like a location card, and so it's going to match. If you're in the first 4 rounds, you're in the first era, and you might be in a forest, so you'll go to the chapter that says 2332. But if you were in the middle time of rounds 4 through 8, or sorry, 5 through 8, then you might go to 2532 because that was about chasing the Holy Grail, like that period of time. So just depending on that. And then sometimes you're running into people, and if you run into a people or a person, you flip, like you might run into a hermit, and then you flip over a trait card, and it might be a crazy hermit or a sorrowful hermit or a sad hermit or whatever. And then you'll turn to that page. You can also find special location encounters. And like there's these places called places of power. And when you do that, you get to read a short little thing, and then you're the only one that game that'll ever be able to enter that place of power. And generally, you can do some really cool stuff. So you're basically going to get 12 turns, 13 turns if you use a special card at the end of the game. And you're trying to score the most destiny points or have the coolest story. You do you. Let's get to the table and come back with our thoughts on Tales of the Arthurian Knights.
He was the wizard of 1,000 kings, and I chanced to meet him one night wandering. He told me tales and he drank my wine. Me and my magic man kind of feeling fine. He had a cloak of gold and eyes of fire, and as he spoke I felt a deep desire to free the world of its fear and pain, and help the people to feel free again. Why don't we listen to the voices in our heart? 'Cause they're not
All right, we are back. Campbell, you look like King Arthur.
I am secretly King Arthur.
Perfect. Why don't you tell me your initial thoughts on Tales of the Arthurian Knights?
So I went into this knowing that it was going to be like a storytelling game, and since I'm like actually the most Omni guy on the podcast, is what we've been saying.
What you've been saying.
No, it's what all of us have been saying, and like actually it's true. There's actually not a guy on this podcast who likes all types of games more than me, right? Right, Rob?
Sure.
I was very excited. Now, as a guy who is known to be a liar sometimes,
Some might say you have cunning.
yeah, some might say I have cunning. I knew that I do have the tendency to get a little glazed over once we reach, like the third consecutive hour of like just reading out of a book. I was actually like looking to buy this game in the middle of it tonight, and then by the end I was like, it's pretty long, but I still really like it, and the writing in this was surprisingly good. Nothing like fancy, nothing super deep, just they didn't overdo it. They didn't go like it wasn't like a wall of text that had absolutely nothing. I think they were things were like consistent and as concise as they could be, even when they were long. And so I ended the game like pretty happy.
Cool. All right. So for me, normally not my kind of game. I would say the reason when we were kind of texting back and forth that I was like, yeah, we were kind of talking about what game we're going to do tonight. And the reason I was like, yes, is because it sounded like you guys were having so much fun when you were playing it at Dungeons Gate the other night.
On
like,
Tuesday?
Yeah, just it like it seemed like a game where there's a lot of laughter, a lot of, things come up and, you
Frivolity.
fail, you fail a roll or you get a roll and something goes well. So, my first impression that kind of lived true through the game is definitely a game of, things happen and the table erupts with laughter or whatever it is, right? So,
Yeah, ever since I got back into gaming, Tales of Arabian Nights has always been on my I want to playlist. I've heard people talk about it tons. I've listened to a lot of podcasts about it, and it just seems like one of those games that's just a fun storytelling game, and you can make choices that you might pick something that makes complete sense to you, and then something completely random happens to you. And then a few years ago, I heard that they were going to be reskinning that game with King Arthur and like the round table theme. And then that kind of, they've been talking about this game for like 6 or 7 years, I think. And it just never appeared. And then I saw it at Gen Con last year that it was finally on its way. And I was excited because I know, you've had time to kind of work on game design, maybe make it a little gamier, a little less random. Just things tend to improve over time. Plus the theme. So I was pumped to check this one out, to say the least.
Real quick, I'm gonna put a little aside here, but back to Cam's Omni Gamer.
Yes.
Cam has the average highest rating of all the Boings for all of our games at 2.4427. Then it's Rob for 2.33, and then me 2.26, and then Jake at 2.25. So Cam actually does mathematically
I do
the
like
most
just about
games
every game
via his Boing rating. So I'm just gonna throw that out there. That I went and averaged them all. He has the highest average.
I mean, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. So Cam is the most omnious board boy gamer.
So here's what I will say about my game journey. I think that I have made by far, in the period of time we've done this podcast, made the biggest step from critical of many games to accepting of many games. Rob is plays every type of game, and he goes and searches out like all sorts of genres of games that generally I wouldn't go be like, hey, I would go do this thing. But I will say, in the time that I have played hundreds of games for this podcast, it has turned my view on games from I'm going to be critical of everything that's not awesome to I'm going to steel man every game I play and try to find something good in it. And I think you could say that about me, right?
I would agree.
There we go. But I do think that Rob is probably still the most omni guy on this podcast.
Rob is the most omni person when it comes to buying a board game. You're willing to
That's
take
100% true.
A little bit of a flyer on maybe a game that's not quite in your wheels, where I think I am way more in I have to buy games that I buy games that I know I'm going to like.
Yeah, I mean, and I think I'm fairly open to trying anything once.
Yep.
No matter what it is.
But Rob
and part of it is because I play tons of games with my son.
Right.
And a lot of them are like, okay, but that's what you want to do. I'll do it. So yeah, you got to find the fun where you can find it. And I just had we're on a huge tangent now, but
sorry.
I started off and I was way more into dice chuck. If I looked at half the Euro games I played now, I'd been like, who are you?
Right.
You know what I mean? That was not me at all. And then I swayed way that way. And I really, really like social deduction games, and I just don't have the groups to play those anymore. And I used to play that stuff all the time. And I did find out there's a Des Moines area social deduction thing, so maybe I need to check that out and play some more.
You played
of that
Blood on the
stuff.
Clock Tower yet?
I have.
I played it over Discord one time. It was kind of cool.
Yeah, that one's maybe too much for me, unless that's the game, your lifestyle game that you play,
Yeah.
which it is for many a person.
I finally played 2 Rooms in a Boom a couple of years ago too. That one's good.
I ran that at a convention where every summer I take games and I do game stuff, and I did that, and that was a huge hit one night when we had 20 some people. It was awesome. I think that's the only time I've ever played it, but
Yeah. I mean,
it's cool.
You ever do one of those things where you just stay up all night and play a dozen games of Town of Salem in a row? Do you know Town of Salem?
Yeah, I've played that that's on the computer, right?
Yeah, it's basically like Werewolf, but you
Yeah.
just play against random people across the
I
internet.
mean, we used to play Avalon. We'd have people over, and that's what we would do on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
And that's the game we played all night. So, and just over and over and over again. And
I think you were still kind of doing that when I first became friends with you, and you invited me to those, and I enjoyed it, but you guys had played it so much that you had this extreme meta for playing it, and somebody would say something and be you tap me and be like, well, that means he's either the princess or the surgeon.
yeah, that's the people when I played Blood on the Clock Tower, because
Right.
that's kind of the level you got to be at. But anyway, yeah, games are awesome.
yeah. Sorry to put a tangent. I thought, but
No, it does not surprise me that Cam is the gentlest reviewer
Yes. Yeah, there you
amongst
go.
all of us. That's how I would put that.
Gentlest.
He finds
he finds
you do you give by far the highest scores across the board.
Yeah, well, we don't play bad games on this podcast,
That's
really.
no, I mean we're not giving anything like I hardly I don't know. I could probably count on one hand the number of sub 2 ratings I've given, in all the time we've done the Boings. I can't believe there'd be more than like half a dozen of those.
I really don't think I've ever given a sub 2 rating on this podcast.
You probably haven't.
And that's because like every game's kind of a 2. Unless it's better. Pardon me, I got like a hair in my throat or something. Ugh.
It's like the time I died on the podcast.
No, it's
I-
not, 'cause I'm not choking.
I thought you were actually going to die. All right. Well, we'll get back to it. I'll jump into some pros. For
Okay, I thought
Arthurian
you were going
Knights.
to come up with some kind of stat for me.
Do you want to hear the stats?
Yeah.
I mean, 8 times you've given less than a 2.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's been that many?
Mm-hmm. I mean, there was Windward on there, so like,
Yeah.
which everybody just
Trash.
trashed. A
Or
little
the
bit,
other
yeah.
ones.
You got Windward. You gave Tigers and Euphrates a 0.5.
Did I really?
Yep. Yeah. So I would say,
I
like,
really didn't like that game.
If it weren't for that, you might be the most omni guy on this podcast.
Yeah.
Probably.
in general,
Well, was
our-
that my lowest rated game
that's
then?
by far that's the lowest rated game. Period.
Tight.
There's Viscounts was 1.5. Western Legends was a 1. Windward was a 1. Agricola was a 1.5. Twilight Inscription was a 1.5.
Okay.
Virtue was a 1.5.
Okay.
And then it takes off after that. It's a long
a lot
time.
of
It's been a
Jake-
good year.
A lot of Jake games.
Even fall. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That was pretty much it. But yeah, like I think in general we're playing games that we all like more the last
Yeah.
couple seasons. So that's risen the score quite a bit.
Or maybe
so.
we've just let Jake choose fewer games.
I mean, I like
No.
to. I like
I'm
to.
joking.
I like to try to bust out. That's why I wanted to kind of play this one tonight. It busts out of our normal shell, I think, of
Well, and
stuff we pick.
we've gotten a little bit away from the top 100 games.
Well, yeah. I mean, we've
And-
burned through those.
Yeah, into
pretty
more
much.
just kind of the cult of the new games, which we tend to buy. The new games are more the ones that, like, no one's going to show up here and be like, "Hey, let's play a crappy game for 2 hours and then talk about it for another 2," right?
This
You
game's
know.
kind of like Mage Knight for non-grognards, huh?
Yeah, and you know when you mentioned Western Legends, that's a game that I know I would like more if we had just played the base game.
Yeah, the
Right.
base game's really good. It's just that, like,
We played with so much stuff, I think, that it just bloated it down really bad.
well, that game suffers from having a huge map because you just don't have a lot of time, and traveling takes forever in that game, and you have to kind of like laser focus on something. And like Western Legends has enough to do in the base game where you can have a different game like pretty much every time.
It's true.
So anyway,
All right, well, let's hit some pros. Tim, back to the review of Arthurian Knights.
So I think the biggest pro for me is the book. So like the book's huge. You would think that like when you pull up these things, right? Whatever the event is, like they always really correspond to like what the thing is, right? The cities always correspond to cities. Like when you get the angry hobbit or whatever it
Yeah.
is, like it's an angry hobbit in there. And like I think though that story with what it is, I think is the biggest pro for me. Right?
And it has to do with the time frame you're in, too.
Sure. Okay. Yep.
Because like you could show up to the same place, like even the magic locations that you can get, depending on what age you turn up, something different happens. Like
Okay.
you showed up in the third age to the castle where the Grail hangs
Right.
out, but you showed up in the third age instead of the second age, which the second age is the quest for the Grail. So if you would have shown up in the second age, you might have found that thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
So
might have lived forever, Tim.
I wish. Well, maybe I don't actually.
I mean,
but
you saw that old guy in Indiana Jones.
yeah, Harrison Ford.
No, the other one.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. But the book's really good. I really like the way it was laid out. I think it's great.
Yeah, I think it doesn't have quite as many entries as Tales of Arabian Nights,
Okay.
which I read, but it
I don't see you like hitting the same things very often.
not the way that they're laid out.
Yeah.
And the only things that can be kind of weird are like if you meet people on like the water spaces, those might not shake out quite
Sure,
right.
yeah.
Because the people can show up kind of in any time frame in any location kind of things. But other than that, everything pretty much makes sense. Some stuff calls back to other things. There's the tokens you can get.
Yeah, that's
which don't
gotta be
trigger
awesome
very
when those
often,
happen.
But like, yeah, I'd be like, take storybook token 14, and then later on you're reading, and I don't think anything is like super important for that, but I think it's because like if somebody died earlier, and then maybe that changes something in a different story or something. And I think a pro for me is I think the writing in this is pretty good.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool. You can actually learn some Arthurian lore, I guess, from this. Like they have like actual books they cited for these stories. So I mean, so as far as like the Arthurian, like the tales and the legends go, like this is all pulled from that.
Yeah. So we definitely ran into a couple Monty Python things.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
And I don't know enough about, like, did Monty Python rip some of those things out of that lore? I don't know enough about the Arthurian lore.
Think so.
Okay.
I think some of the, like, I think they show up at the like the Grail Castle at the end of Monty Python, and I think that's the same place.
Right.
I mean, I could be wrong, I guess, but
we definitely ran into.
I think a lot of those places are real.
Sure. Yeah. But like some of the stories with.
You do find a lot of Black Knights in the storybook too.
Well, I mean, we were like the siege of the France castle or whatever. Like I wonder if there's a siege story that's kind of like where they're jousting back and forth a little bit. I don't know enough about King Arthur to say. Besides, the only thing I know about King Arthur,
but I know that we read a story night that was very much like the French taunting in Monty Python.
Yeah, I just wonder if they run into some castle and have
There's a lot of hijinks.
Yeah. The only thing I know really about King Arthur is the Quest for the Holy Grail and the Sword in the Stone cartoon from Disney.
And they have a lot of there's also a page of pronunciation in the back of the rule book too, so if you want to know how to say all of those ye old English words,
like king.
Yeah, king.
Yeah.
I used to say king, but it's actually just king. Did you know that?
I didn't.
Yeah. Well, do you know? It's fun to have a bunch of different skills in this game.
Yeah, the skill system's neat. There's like 4 major schools of skills, I guess, or types, and then there's 3 of each of those. And then you can only have you can have like 6 of them at level 1, but then you have 1 less as you go on all the way up to you can only have 1 level 6 skill.
Well, something that I liked about that game was that investing in like different types of each of the hierarchical skills gave you exciting opportunities to use the specific ones. I kind of wish that there had been more checks that just let you choose like any one of that type of skill. I felt like those are pretty rare. And maybe they're just harder. So, but like there was like a lot of times where like I would go do battle and it would be like use short sword and shield and be like, well, but my guy's good at fighting on a horse, so, like, I'm not, like, fighting a duel, like, let me use my horse. And, like, I understand why it would be harder, like, the kind of thing where, maybe I would like it if the book was, like, use a combat skill. If you use short and shield, add 2, or something like that, and they just make, like, the passing grade harder, but, like, if I'm awesome at a particular type of combat, like, or maybe that makes the game too easy. I don't know. Maybe I'm just wishing, about something that I shouldn't wish for.
I like that you can really kind of just jump in and start playing it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Like everything you do on your turn and everything you do for the scorings are all right there. Actually, not quite everything. I wish everything was on there so if you didn't want to, you didn't have to go to that passage in the book between chapters. It has like the major scorings, but then it doesn't mention, oh yes, you can also go to Camelot. Mm-hmm. And you also, like, I got points because of, I don't remember, I was married and I didn't have villainy or something, or, some weird combo of things.
Yes, that's the one.
Because they even say like after you play the game once or twice, like you don't really want to read the intro chapter thing. We didn't read that tonight anyway, but there's basically like things you read every game, and it's like, why do I want to read that again?
You know what? I sort of take back what I just said, and I think it's a pro that like I failed at a lot of stuff early, and I think you should fail a lot early and succeed a lot later in the game. And I think like part of what I'm saying tonight was just like sort of marred by the fact that Rob's night was just like supremely successful. And so like every time after Rob's turn, I'd be like, okay, it's my turn to go do something cool. And so it'd be like on Rob's turn, it'd be like, you see a golden harp sitting in the middle of the forest. Like, you try to pluck it, and then Rob would be like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll do that. And then it'd be like, use instrument skills. And Rob would be like, oh, I only have 0 in that. And then he'd roll like a 7 somehow. And it'd be like...
on the 6-sided dice.
And then, like, the harp turns into a beautiful woman. She gives you $10,000, and you become the king of the forest. And I'd be like, this is so fun. And then it'd come to my turn, and it'd be like... there's a jar of olives on a shelf, and you try to open it. Use strength, and I'd be like, oh, I have like 7 in that. And I'd be like, oh, I rolled a 1. Sorry, you needed a 10. The jar of olives like falls on your foot, and it breaks your toe, and now you can't, like, you can walk 3 spaces less on your next turn.
You're scorned.
Yeah, but like, the stuff that happened to me, like, should happen to me. Like, that's fun about the game. Like, everybody should deal with some failure at the beginning of it so that when you, like, beef up at the end and you're, like, slaying monsters and stuff, like, it feels really good. I think I just was, like, kind of feeling jealous because, like
I'm awesome.
Like, Rob was literally the king of a castle by the second turn. And then, like...
married, too.
Yeah, he was married...
had a company...
he was married and, like, had, like, an assistant
Yeah.
and was, like, the king. And he, like, had, like, a magical boat.
I had an entourage.
Yeah, and an entourage. And then, like, by halfway through the game, I was, like, imprisoned because a Knight of the Round Table, couldn't fight off, like 3 highwaymen. And, like, they put me in a... Like, they captured me, and I had to, like, use a whole turn escaping from a dungeon. And, like, meanwhile, like, Rob is, like, chopping, like, sea dragons in half. But, like...
I mean, the thing is, the game can be super mean, and when you fail, like, awful, terrible things happen and you get nothing. At least when you fail in this, you
Like,
usually
you get stuff.
you usually fail upward.
Yeah.
Now, there are bad statuses you can get, but I like the statuses are a big pro for me. I love the flavor of them. Everyone has this giant deck of statuses that you can get. Some are good, some are bad. Some have game effects for different things. I don't know. I think it's always fun to be like, oh no, what happened to me now?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
on turn 2 for me, I found some sort of, like, I don't know, Night Witch King thing or whatever, and he possessed me. I failed the check or whatever. So for the next, like, 3 turns, someone else had to decide all of my checks, and then...
You were ensorcelled.
Yeah, and then if I had these other checks, I would have rolled better, and this other one I rolled worse or whatever. I didn't actually end up having to roll anything because I got stuck one turn and couldn't, like, do anything. But I think it's interesting. Like, that deck, I think, is one of the more fun parts of the game.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, all the stories and things that happen to you are fun. Going and doing quests is fun. Seeing, like, the rewards of, like, what you try to do is fun. But I think my very favorite thing was when you run into, like, a stranger and they, like, get, like, they flip up 2 cards at, like, what type of stranger they are. And, like, those ones were always really neat. Like, those ones were really cool, I thought.
Yeah, I like there's a lot of combinations of those you can get too, which is cool. I mean, I think this is a game that if you played it constantly all the time, you would definitely like be like, oh yeah, I've seen that one before. But you also could be like, well, I'm going to do the other thing this time.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's so many decision tree and different moments you can pick. But if this is a game that you're going to play just every once in a while, I would venture to say that the replayability on this thing is huge.
Yes.
Yeah,
For
Hondo
sure.
P.
Very, very huge.
Yeah, I'm a little worried. So my game, it felt like there was only 4 or 5 different skills that came up over and over and over again. And I'm now worried that I would be like, okay, cool, I'm going to do these like 5 skills, and it's going to be, nature and, whatever, the cunning or whatever, right? And then I'm going to go roll a whole bunch of different other things. It just, sometimes for me, it felt like there was a small sect of those 12 skills that came up all the time. And I don't know if that was just by luck or is that something you've seen in the other games?
No, I mean, sometimes it comes, the skills pop up that you have, and sometimes they pop up that you don't. But I was reading some stuff on Board Game Geek today, And the designer popped into a thread and mentioned that it doesn't matter what skills you really pick at the beginning. It's kind of an RP decision because he can share you the giant spreadsheet for this game that he has to show you that the skills are evenly distributed throughout the book. So one game, you might not see a skill that you have to use, and one game, you might see it all the time, right? But that's just RNG, I think.
Sure. Okay. Any more pros?
I think the treasures are really cool. They might be one of my favorite parts of the game because they're extremely powerful.
So they usually...
Some of them can be. They always like give you a lot of skill. A lot of them give you skills. And then if you lose the item, you lose the skills. But then you have like an ability to be like, discard this thing to do something.
Yeah. There were...
Anytime you have a chance that you think you have a chance to get one, you should probably try to get a treasure. That is my recommendation.
Yeah, I wish I wouldn't have gotten rid of mine. I wish I would have chanced it.
Hey, you auto-succeeded your thing, though.
I did. That's true. So...
Yeah, I mean, I have some... maybe con area things. We played with the grand quests tonight, and they're basically one quest for each age, and they give you something you can go do, and you know exactly what you have to do to pass them or do them, and there's 3 for each age, and you randomly pick one. So there's not a ton of variety there. But also... your turn could be, oh yeah, I'm going to go here and get a cool passage out of a book. Or your turn is, I'm going to go here and roll this dice. And if I'm successful, I know exactly what I'm going to get and I'm going to be done. On one hand, I think those can speed the game up a bit because you're doing less reading. On the other hand, your turn is kind of not as fun or cool because you're not getting to make choices or read or hear your story or that kind of thing. So... I could take or leave those things. I kind of like them because they give you another option to do. Like, if you don't like the quest you have, you could be like, okay, well, I'm going to go work on the grand quest instead. So it gives you something else to do. And then I like how they're like the scoring in between the rounds are based on like skills and like how much renown you've built up and things like that. So you kind of know stuff to kind of shoot for. And I think that's the most game you're going to get out of this game right there is trying to figure out how to up that stuff to get those kind of points. That and the numbers on the board can determine how hard you're like going into a forest with a 4 instead of going into a forest with a 2 could make that harder. But if you're beefed up, like Cam was trying to do at the end of the game, you can score more points that way because a lot of them are based on how hard the location was.
Yeah, and I think that's a good way to come back and score. So I've been thinking all game, like, what's the con of this game? And this is a very light con if you enjoy this, just the storytelling aspect of the game, which you should with something like this. But, like, from the very beginning, because of the way the game Rob had, like, it became very clear to me that it's like, okay, like, if you succeed and just keep succeeding, it becomes easier to succeed. And if you fail and keep failing, like, you get stronger and you can, like, come back and, like, have cool stuff happen to you too. But, like, at the end of the day, this is a competitive game, not a cooperative game. And is there, like, a cooperative mode?
There is a cooperative
There's a cooperative mode. But, like, if you're playing competitively, like, there's just points. And, like, you can see the stack of points that other players already have. And, like, every turn they get to do something cool and you get to do something cool. So if you wanted to stay competitive throughout the rest of the game, like, you need people to, like, fail early as you're failing early too. It would be nice if there was something you could do to sort of, like, to me it wouldn't be like a take that, because, like, you're all knights of, like, Arthur. I don't know, like, maybe, like, the villainy track would allow you to, like, hamper other players in some way.
Well, the way you hamper them is every quest in this game is you basically have to give the other people power over what you have to do, right?
Yeah, so, but, like, that lets those other people, like, stuff you just as much as you stuff them.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if it's, like, when you fail at something, like, pushing like a little -1 towards like somebody else
Yeah.
or something. Or but like what it really could be is just like all the bad things that happen to you, you get something good when the bad stuff is done happening. So that's nice. Like when you get like a bad status effect. But like just maybe a way to like I don't know, like you collect point chips, but like it could be as simple as that, like if there was a scoring marker around the board that like whoever's behind, like a rat tail type thing from like Quacks at Quedlinburg, like if you're down by 5 points, like you actually gain more glory when you gain glory, or like what renown or whatever it's called, or like if you're down by 15 points, you actually gain like a couple more. Like this game could use rubber banding because as a competitive storytelling game, it's kind of like Munchkin, where like if you draw the awesome cards and you play Munchkin, it's like, well, that's just kind of the game, and like that's fun, but Munchkin's like a 30-minute game, and this game was like 2.5, 3 hours for us tonight. I don't need to win this game. I had a fun time, and I would rather be Sir Gawain, who lost, than Sir Pendiphilus, who robbed. What was your guys' name? Sir...
I can't remember now.
Sir Izmir Stinger. Whatever his name was. Like, I don't need to win, but, like, I think that's probably important to people playing games that last this long if it's competitive. So, I don't know, maybe I would just rat tail the game if I was playing this with people who cared about that. And just go like, hey, every 5 points, or every 10 points you're behind, like you get like of the leader, then you like just get an extra point for each 10 points you're behind, or 5 points you're behind, or whatever.
I'll have to try the cooperative version of this.
Yeah.
I haven't done that yet.
And then maybe the cooperative version is the way to go. Although like what I kind of like about this game versus other storytelling games and like other cooperative games like that is cooperative games, you all have to kind of focus on the same thing, and then you have to sit there and be like, well, Tim, what do you think I should do now? And like this game let you just go do whatever you want, so the fact that it's competitive is like cool. Like the cooperative mode that could be cool is just like you have to get a score threshold.
I think that's what it is.
Score threshold, and then maybe like you all have to contribute to something at the end of the game. Like fight like a big enemy at the end or something. And like, you know, there's different skill checks and you can like choose who does what checks or something like that.
I mean, another con prawn I have is the quests and like hey Cam, you have to go put this in 2 forests in this zone for me.
Yeah.
Like, I get that, and I like that as in a competitive type thing, but for me, almost every time I'm gonna probably just make that kind of easy for the person, because we all want to hear the cool thing that's gonna happen when you do that.
Exactly, and it kind of seems like the quests are like not as valuable use of your time as just like traipsing around.
And the quests might be the least replayable part of the game because there's not that many of them. So eventually maybe that becomes less important, and you can score just as many points going and just doing a random thing in the woods. I think you can score
more points. Like the last thing I did when I went to like go do a thing in that big city, if I had passed it, that would have been 8 points. The winner of this game got 52 points, 53 points. I mean, that's a huge
I think
point.
I had 62. But I had never scored more than 46.
Yeah, I had 49.
Yeah.
And if I'd gotten those 8 points, I would have been really close
so
to you.
your first game that you thought was crappy was better than my best game.
No, I didn't think it was crappy. Like, as I...
No, I just mean score-wise.
Yeah, well, no, as I suss it out, like, I actually think, like, statistically, you should fail, like, 3 or 4 times in this game. Like, you should... So that, like, when you get stronger and start doing well, it feels awesome.
Well, the points, you definitely score more points as the game goes on.
Right.
So I think the game is built to be, like, more forgiving in the beginning of failing in the beginning will make you stronger later on when the stuff matters more.
But, like, the thing is you also get stronger when you succeed. Plus you get points. Plus you get treasure. Plus, like, you get to be like, oh, I'm also... like married to the hottest chick, and my horse is like actually a ghost made of fire. Oh, what do you have? Like, oh, I'm in a dungeon. like I didn't like it. Does like it's funny.
But you escaped that dungeon, bro.
It doesn't make me feel sad, but like, dude, like if you play this game with like 3 brothers under the age of 10, and one of them has like monarchy, and the other one has like syphilis. Like, I think there's gonna be some hurt feelings at the table.
Yeah, that's what I find funny about the game, though, is it's all about the stories for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we're saying, like you're saying, is it's just a little bit win more, right? When you don't, so when you fail, you get a skill bump or whatever. You get a small bonus. When you succeed, you get that small bonus plus probably another small bonus. And as those compound across the game, if you continue to fail, it just seems like
That's true.
The gap just continues to widen out, right?
Yeah,
which,
and I mean,
which is fine.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah,
and I'm sure there's times when you fail and the failure is as good as some of the winning things. And I'm sure some of the winning things are way better than other like you can. It just feels like it's very random as far as what you get.
Okay.
Because sometimes you win and you get like 1 or 2 things, and sometimes it's like here's 6 things you just got.
Well, playing competitively. So, like, if I'm playing to get points, because, like, tonight is just, like, fun to listen to the stories and do the things, and we're having a fun playing a storytelling game. But again, I'm trying to put this from the standpoint of, like, people are going to play this and want to win when a game's this long, right? And so...
And I would say this is not the game for you, if that's what you want.
Yeah, but, like, everybody, like, wants to win games when they play games. Like, that's just, like, why games exist, kind of.
I mean, I'll get to that in my final thoughts for this, I guess.
Yeah.
I have
like,
0 interest in what my score is at the end of this game.
Yeah. That's how you need to be playing it, I think. And that's just what I'm saying is, like, the con is, like, if you...
Because I have in this game, you have very little control over what your score is going to be.
That's pretty
I mean,
true.
you can do the best you can, and then you roll a 6-sided dice.
Although you are able to game it, kind of, like, again.
Yeah, I mean, you can
once
try,
yeah.
but then there's times you're like, oh, yeah, I'm going to do that because that's this skill. And then it's like, oh, no.
Sorry,
you
don't have sewing. So
Yeah. Anyway.
So you can't repair the tapestry.
All right, does anybody else have any more cons before we get into final thoughts?
No, honestly, I think we spent longer on cons than we did. This game's pretty fun.
My game's fun. Like, my only thing, it's long. It tends to, I don't know. It's probably what's happening is as you get into the third age, the stories are longer.
I feel like they do get longer.
So then the time between your turns gets longer.
Also, if everyone saves that last card, you actually play 5 rounds in the last round.
So it felt like maybe because it got later too when I go to bed at 8 p.m., right? It just felt like a
very possible
drag towards the end of the
game.
game.
I mean, we played this game with 4 players in a little over 2 hours on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that I felt the third age felt like the longest age.
Okay.
In that one too.
And this one we played 3 players in 3 hours.
Yeah, probably about that. So, I mean, the game box says 45 minutes a player, and I'd say that's pretty accurate.
Okay. Yeah, it just
So,
it felt like the time between your turns was growing as the game went on.
I mean, sometimes you read one column, and sometimes you read like a page.
Yeah. It was funny. I read like a whole. So there's like 3 columns in the book for each. I read like an entire column and a half for Cam, and then the bonus was just like gain 2 piety.
Yeah.
You know,
I feel like maybe some of them are maybe a little too long, but I think for the most part, the blurbs are pretty good.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. If they were all just like a half a column, I think this game you'd cut a little bit off the game. And
probably
it would be better, and I think you would get still most of the immersive storytelling.
But like even that one that was really long, where Cam basically met like the Fae King or whatever. Like, I know he got like that story had like a third part to it, right? But that third part was like super interesting. Like, I thought that was cool.
It was cool.
Even though the payoff was whatever.
Sure. I think you could have delivered most of that same feel
probably
in half the amount of words. So coming from a guy that was reading it past his bedtime.
That's true.
You know.
All right,
bedtime boy.
Let's talk about final thoughts here on the Board Boys podcast. We have a 3 boing rating scale. 0 boings being the worst, 3 boings being the best. One time only. You can give that 4 boing rating. Campbell, why don't you give us a 0 boing and a 3 boing game of the Tales of the Arthurian Knights?
0 boing game of Tales of Arthurian Knights. The first turn of the game in a 0 boing game of Tales of Arthurian Knights, you get your head chopped off, and then you have to do the whole game with a status effect where your guy has no head.
You just have to sit there and listen to everyone else
Deheaded.
play.
Yeah.
You have to pass every turn while they try to sew your head back on.
Yeah.
If you rolled 3 6s in a row, your head gets sewn back on. But
Every failure is you have to read 3 pages out of the book.
It's out of the book about how your guy has no head.
Yeah.
3-1 game of Tales of Arthurian Knights. On your first turn, you get married, and on your second turn, you become a king. So, which is what Rob had happen to him tonight.
Excellent.
I can start out if you want.
Yeah.
Do it.
So, I surprisingly, I think I liked this game. I think I would like it more had it not dragged a little bit at the end. But call it the first 2/3 of the game was super fun. The last 1/3, I think, where it dragged for me was I had like the grand quests and my quest. I just didn't get the skills, and I didn't get the ability to get the skills when I had those quests, knowing that I needed the skills. So like I just couldn't do them. So I felt a little like rudderless, and trying to find locations on the board that maybe corresponded to your skills was a little abstract for me. I'm sure if you played the game more, you would know, if you have magic, you want to go to the plains or whatever it is, right?
I don't think it matters.
Okay, it might not matter, right? But like I went to the forest. I was like, I need to get my nature up, so I'm going to go to the forest, and I ended up getting my nature up through the forest, right? So
I think that was probably a
by chance,
coincidence,
okay.
But I could be wrong.
Could have been, yeah. I think I'm going to give it a 2. I would like to play it again. I think this game would be a 2.5 if it was in the 2 hours and 15-minute range, and not the 3-hour range.
I think it would be with 2 players, which is how you want to play this game, sort of.
Yeah,
but like,
you
it's
played it
more
with
exciting with 4, though.
Yeah.
Probably where like people.
I might just try the solo version of this game sometime.
I feel like the
There you just
solo
read
version
it
of
to
this
yourself.
game, like, and the thing about like, I would think it would be a fun solo game, but like, to me, solo gaming a storytelling game is when I go play a RPG.
Yeah.
You
It might feel kind of not as cool reading it, like not sharing the story with
Yeah.
somebody else.
like board games, I think that to solo are at their best when they're like really gamey, and
Yeah.
this game is like more collaborative.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
I mean, it's fun hearing other people do voices and
Exactly.
stuff.
Well,
Yeah,
I was the only one who did voices.
Rob did voices.
Rob did voices?
Yeah.
Yeah, man, you don't listen.
I kind of listen.
All right, who wants to go next?
I'll go next so that Rob can round it out. Give Rob the final word on his game. My problem with adventure board games, with storytelling board games, are there's always a better one coming out. This is what I always say. There's always a better one coming out. You're always competing with tabletop RPGs, and you're always competing with video games. Like, that's just like the rut you find yourself in, is this kind of game. And so it's hard to be like, this is the one. I think the perfect one will exist where I'll be like, man, it'd be hard to beat this. I think there's ways this could be beaten, but it's still a super fun time. This is one of the better ones of these I've played. The writing is really good, which is extremely important when you're going to be reading out of a book. And the character building and gameplay, like, there's not a lot of gameplay, but like the looking at your sheet and being like, I can do good magic and I have a strong sword, like, feels cool. And I want to give it a 2.5.
For me, I think this game makes me excited for the new Tales of Arabian Nights that's coming out. I hope it is similar, and I really like the Arabian Nights stories. I think it's just enough game for me as far as like the gaminess goes. I really like the storytelling. Every time I played this game, I try to do my best, obviously, but I always just make decisions based on what I think sounds cool, or like I decide, hey, I'm going to play my character this way, and that's how I make my decisions. This is the first time I've ever won the game, which I thought that felt cool, and it felt cool to be awesome all the time. But I think I just had like the perfect game of this tonight, which probably will never happen again.
And with that in mind,
Yeah.
that's awesome that happened tonight.
Yeah, and then I can look back and be like, oh yeah, I met this jester and they like joined my party, and then I met this lady and we got married, and then I just like crushed this magical dream bed and became king of a castle. Like all this wild stuff happened to me, and like that's all about the story, and I think that's the fun part. And like you start hearing a story and you're like, oh man, they're gonna make that decision and what's gonna happen. I like listening to everybody's stories. That's what makes the game for me. It's a 2.5. This is a really good con game, I think.
Yeah.
Where you have maybe like time to like the time doesn't matter maybe as much. I also think this is a great game. Like we played this over Christmas with some family. Bo and I haven't played it together yet, just the two of us. But this is a game where like he and I could just play it, and we could also just play like this is a good. We could play a third of this game every night, like before bed or something, and play 4 rounds at a time, and then kind of break it up too. And that would work just great, I think. I don't know that I'd ever really want to play this game going into it being like, yeah, let's just play the short game and play 4 rounds.
Yeah.
I don't think you'd get quite the same feeling for that. You really get the full arc and effect when you play, I think, the full game. I don't know what you guys think about that.
I would never want to play the short version either.
I would agree with that.
Because like the first time we did it, we played this over Christmas break when we were at Amy's parents' house with her brother and his wife. And we're like, okay, we're just going to play 8 rounds or whatever. And then we got to at the end of round 8, we're like, yeah, we're going to finish, right? So the other thing is every group I've played this with has really liked it. People that I did not think were going to like this game really liked it. People kept asking me on like Joe and Jared want to play this game all the time.
Right.
Joe, he loves my father's work, so I knew he would love this game. Jared, I thought would hate the randomness of this game, but he really likes storytelling and he liked it. So yeah, it's been a pretty big hit all around so far. So I'm happy with it.
I'm really sorry because I want to make a 3-point addendum to this because so much stuff you said just brought up things I actually wanted to say during the podcast that I didn't. First things first, here's my biggest con, and I think where you could like make this game so that like you're not getting like if you get behind, like there's still something you can do about it. If like each of the characters had like an starting ability that you could sort of lean into to like get yourself out of a rut, I think that would be really helpful. So like maybe if like your guy, like you have your character like rolls 1 pip higher, when he has a negative ability. This guy rolls 1 pip higher when he's on the sea, like that kind of thing could help you be like, oh, I need to go past some stuff for a bit. 2, it would be sick if this game had like an app or a log or a chronicle or something where, like, to Rob's point, like when you have an awesome game like this, you can kind of like store the memories of like a character and be like, oh, that was awesome. Like maybe like a little achievement book in the back with like stickers that you could like put on the back of like characters and be like, this guy killed a king. Like this dude got married to an ogre, like that kind of stuff. 3, there is a video game that I absolutely love. I would say it's in my top probably 5 video games of all time, and it's called Wildermyth, and it is a storytelling like video game RPG. It's like a tactics RPG, kind of like a JRPG tactics game sort of meets like an XCOM type game. It's like on a grid, but like percentages for hitting and stuff like that are sort of based on like line of sight and stats and stuff like that. But in that game, what's so cool about it is you create all your characters and then stuff happens to them in between every battle that'll like, this guy will like go drink from an enchanted fountain and like grow, like get like a wolf head. And then like in between chapters of the game, they like age like 5 or 10 years. And then like you can see like the dude like sprout a wolf arm, or like, you get like special enchanted weapons. things will happen to them. Like the characters will form rivalries. They'll have children, and the children will join the team. And when you finish a campaign of Wildermyth, you take one of those characters and you give them, you can promote them in your echelon of heroes, and then in later campaigns they may show up and join your party, and they're already ascended a little bit, so they're a little bit stronger when they start. And so if you have characters that recur, and you end up loving a couple of the characters, and they join the game, they'll come in super powerful. It would be sick if this game had something like that, where you could sort of attach little things, do a campaign where things get progressively harder, but you get to start with little things. That would be I think that would be the incredible version of this game. I think that would make this kind of game a 3 for me. Is some form of continuity with the storytelling. And so you get back in and you just play the same campaign, but you have these little buffs, maybe. And the book is harder. So that the first few times you play the game, it's not glorious. And as you play the game more and more, there's it gets more heroic.
And you could do that more if you had an app instead of a book too,
Yeah.
right? That's what Forgotten Waters does a little bit.
Yeah. Well, maybe Forgotten Waters is the 3.
If you do that and make more Monty Python references,
There's probably way more
there
Monty
we go.
Python references.
Maybe
the book is 1,000 pages.
Yeah, that book it's a cool book.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks great. And it's lighter than you expect.
Check it out.
Sweet. All right. That'll do it for Tales of Arthurian Nights. So we do like to look back 1 year in the past, and a segment we call Bumper Dump. Cam, you want to hit us with the theme song?
Baby, turn around. I want to see that sexy board game go, board boys. Bump.
Or dump.
All right. So 1 year ago, we reviewed Anunnaki. Anunnaki was a 7.4 for 3687. It's still a 7.4. Bumper dump.
Bump it.
Cam?
I'm trying to remember if that game was fun or not.
You gave it a 2.
Dump.
It's a bump, just a little bit. 3191. I've seen people play it a couple times floating around, which I was surprised to even see it out and about.
Yeah, it didn't hit retail super hard. That's one where I still want to play the campaign scenarios and those, because it kind of modifies some things. Tonight I wanted to maybe play Cyclades.
Yeah.
The new one to correspond to the look back here, but I just need to play Anunnaki again.
Yeah,
I've played it a couple times since then, but I've only ever played kind of the base stuff.
Yeah, it's hard to do when you teaching new people every time, if you don't have the same group or people that know how to play the game. The game's a little it's not hard, but there's a little bit to it. So it's hard to say, okay, here's a decently complex game, and then we're going to throw in a whole nother set of complex stuff on top of it, right?
Yep.
So, yeah. Cool. Well, if you'd like to give us feedback, you can do so at our Board Game Geek Guild. We did not have any feedback on this one.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people played it. Plus, I got that up a little late.
You did get it up a little late. Okay.
I forgot we ran out of me posting.
But you can find our Board Game Geek Guild through our website, boardboys.com. So.
Yeah, and if you want to hit it up on Anunnaki, maybe we'll throw it out there later.
Yeah, and just for everybody coming up, we got Ezra Nehemiah, Skyrise, Cascadero, Beyond the Sun are kind of all floating out there.
Yeah, and that'll bring us to the end of season 16.
Yep.
Woo.
Yep.
All right, well, like Tim said, go to theboardboys.com, find all the cool links out there. You can join our Patreon and support us. We'd greatly appreciate it. You can also support us with 5-star iTunes reviews, or if you can do that on Spotify, whatever. You can get links to our Facebook, Instagram, do a lot of posting out there, showing the games we've been playing. Like when people comment and talk to us on there as well. You can join our Discord. The link on there is also on the website. I'd like to thank our patrons now: Hammond McDonough, BJ from Board Game Gumbo, Timothy Crisco, Shifty Teeth, Jordan Smith, Jeff Gray, Andre Bosch, Braden Dowdy, Rob Cooper, Richard Lane, Matt Kelly, Portland Gamecraft, Terry Ward, Jeremy Thoman, and Dom Lankin. Thanks again, everybody, for supporting us. We greatly appreciate it. And until next time, may the force be with you.
Bing bong, bing bong. That's what Steve Walsh said.
I wanted to say something cool about, I don't know, pull that sword from that stone. You are now knighted. Rise, Sir Knight. There we go.
Yeah, I don't know if Arthur had like a special thing.
I think you just rise, Sir Knight of the Round Table. Timothy. Sir Tim.
Sir Tim.
Good night, everybody.
Saw you riding on a moon cloud. Saw you walking on a whirlpool. From the corner of my eye, I saw you sitting on a sunbeam in the middle